Welcome to Grant Teach Me Something, brought to you by CreativeCashFlow.com, helping you buy more houses, and Noble Mortgage and Life and Air. We're so glad to have you today. Today's going to be a really hard-hitting episode. I really enjoy this topic a lot. This is a topic of how do I talk to my seller. So we're going to take a three-pronged approach to that today. In the first segment, we're going to talk about the psychology behind it, okay? We're going to talk about what, from a psychological level, is going to affect a seller to want to work with you. And guys, understand that negotiating is negotiating. Understanding human psychology is understanding human psychology. I'm talking about this in the context of buying houses, but this is a much bigger topic that you can use in the rest of the world. And if you have any doubts of that, take a look at me and then go look at my wife's Instagram page and you will understand how much better you can do if you know the psychology of negotiating. Second prong we're going to do is we're going to talk about the live cold call. What are some specifics to the cold call, and how are you going to talk to your seller when you're reaching out to them and knowing what kind of situation they're in? How do you get them ready to say yes and sign a contract with you? And then in our third segment, we will talk about the in-person appointment and how to handle that to get to yes and get to a signed contract. So I'm so glad to have you guys here. I can't wait to teach you about this. Stay tuned.
PROPELIO TV is brought to you by Noble Mortgage and Investments, CreativeCashFlow.com, and Life and Air.
Teach me something.
Hey, welcome back. We are here with the wonderful and beautiful Mr. Rai Rai.
Hey.
How are
I'm
you
excited
today?
about the show because there's so many different strategies
Yeah.
on talking to sellers. Like, I know you're a little bit more direct than some people.
Yeah.
And some people a little bit more like passive, and some people are a little bit more just like, I'm staying here until you give me your house. So it's a cool
and
discussion.
and I'm glad that you brought that up, because I hadn't thought about that that aspect of it. But this is very true. This is one of the things that I want to get out before anything else, is that you are going to buy houses differently than I buy houses, and that's okay. What I'm going to talk about today is going to give you a foundation to stand on, especially if you're not in a position, if you feel like you are not converting your leads as efficiently as you might hope. This episode is for you. And guys, I'll be frank, I think everyone out there should say, yeah, I don't think that I'm converting leads as efficiently as I would hope, because I would hope that you're getting a 100% conversion rate, but
Yeah, I
I
was
can
gonna
almost
say,
guarantee
if-
that that's not happening.
You know, we say it all the time. There's always more to learn, and there's always tips you can get there. And if you're not converting 105% of your leads, like literally, if you're not getting more deals out of your one you bought, then you
Right.
still need to be working on your craft.
Absolutely. So this is something that I've put a lot of focus on. The negotiations aspect is one of the things that, as an entrepreneur, as an executive in your business, you have to always be looking for what is the roadblock that's standing between me and my goals. And you have to identify those roadblocks. And when you get to identify a roadblock, that should be a really exciting moment for you. That should be a really exciting moment of, this is the thing that's going to get me where I want to go. And I had that moment at one point in time with the negotiations. Negotiations were a weak point for me. And I realized, well, if they're a weak point for me, why don't I get them to be a strong point for me, right? It's not like negotiating is some like witchcraft that there's nothing out there and no materials on to learn.
If it is witchcraft, where's that class?
Right here. Today's GTMS. This is that class. So, like I said, we're going to start segment one with talking about how do we look at the psychology of talking to a seller. This is one of the areas that I really encourage people to dive into more, because again, negotiating is negotiating. This is a craft that's been around for ever, and it's not new to anything. Car salesman, corporate salesman, whatever. So we're going to use some books to help us get where we want to go. Now I'm going to expose myself to you guys today. I'm going to give you some books that I haven't really given out before. And so I'm going to expose a lot of the things that I'm using behind the scenes that that I haven't super openly handed out before. Part of that is, and there's this weird, and I bet there's a name for it. If anybody knows the name for it, I'd love for you to chime in. And by the way, if you're listening to this on the podcast, we're going to put a link in the description to the actual video. So if you have questions or if you have something to chime in with, please click that link and go in there and comment so that we can collaborate and cooperate with each other here. But back to me exposing myself to you. I'm going to give you some tips and books that I use that have shaped my craft and made me where I am today. And there's this weird phenomenon, and I don't understand it, but I'm sure you've witnessed it before, where, like, let's say you and me are out at dinner with somebody, right? And that person teaches us something. And they teach us some really cool thing, and it blows our minds. And then the next day, you and me are at breakfast with somebody, and I start teaching that thing to the other person. And you're like, dude, come on, man. Like, you just learned that yesterday.
I was in the same room.
Yeah. It's this weird thing that, like, all of a sudden, if we know where somebody learned something, it, like, all of a sudden is invalidated that they know it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't understand that. I don't understand that. So be very careful not to fall under that, to fall victim to that, because we have this, you know.
I know what it is. It's like everybody, and nobody's vocal about it. I mean, I'm glad we're having this conversation, but it is very, like, I know what you're saying.
Right.
I'm flustered too. I don't know what I'm saying. But it's that there's this the sense of not disgrace. That's too much of a harsh word.
Right.
But it's like,
who are you to teach this? I know where you learned that. You just like
right. But people.
But everybody learned everything
but
from
people
somebody
don't
at
want to
some
be
point.
authentic about. Yeah, I learned this in college. They just
Right.
want to be like, I learned this when I was on mountain biking the trails, and I have firsthand knowledge of this
Right.
material.
Right.
Here's a quick nugget. There's no such thing as firsthand knowledge nowadays. You're
learn everything.
learning from somebody else always.
Always. Yes, absolutely. So please, as you start to see me using these techniques, be excited that you're recognizing how those are being put into play, and take that as something for you to use in yourself, and as a understanding of, hey, I read this book, I saw how that principle was outlined, and oh, cool, I saw how Grant employed that. How can I employ that, right? So there's one book that I've given away a lot, which is Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion. That, again, is the cornerstone of my negotiating career, shot my conversions through the roof, gotta read it. These are the two books that I haven't told people much about before. One is Creating a Story Brand by Donald Miller. Phenomenal book. You will have heard me as I explain some of this stuff in this segment. You will recognize some of those principles. The other one is Start with Why by
Simon
Sinek, and it is an awesome read. Both of these books should blow your mind. Now, it's really easy to read both of those books as a real estate investor and almost tune out.
But you know what's funny? But back to this point of people being ashamed of where they got that knowledge and not wanting to give credit. And you know, maybe you don't have to give credit, but like, start with your why. I didn't get that from you. I got that from Matthew Elmer when he was in here like a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, should you have to give credit where you get knowledge from somebody?
I don't think so.
No.
Yeah.
But I mean, every once in a while, it's good to acknowledge
Give
that
that
you're
shout
not the genius that you think you
My
are.
warning was more so that sometimes people give this little like scoff if they know where the knowledge came from, that it like invalidates that knowledge that this person has.
Yeah.
And all I'm saying is everybody got their knowledge from somewhere. So we're going to employ these three books in some way, somehow, to help you buy more houses. That's segment one today. So let's jump into that. So I'm going to start with why. Whatever. I get like...
And on that, and I'm assuming we're starting with the why on the seller's behalf,
Yes.
not necessarily ours, because we do talk about mindset a lot here. We do talk about your why, and your personal why needs to be strong enough to do the hustle grind and do the work. But that's not what we're talking here. We're talking about the why of the seller, correct?
Yeah, we're actually going to hit a little bit of both, right? But you're very in tune to know that we need to know the seller's why. That's the key, okay? So actually, because of that, I think I'm going to adjust the game plan a little bit. We're going to start with story brand. Okay, building a story brand. This one should change the way you speak, you write, and you behave entirely, okay? So here's the thing. Here's the thing that you maybe have heard me say in the past, and now you're going to know where it came from. Every story has a protagonist, right? Every story has a protagonist. Even Marvel even the Avengers, all those kinds of things. It's a story built with heroes, but really, it's about Captain America or it's about Iron Man, depending on which one of the movies you're watching. There's a hero, okay? We have to understand that everyone wakes up the protagonist of their own story, right? When you woke up this morning, you didn't give a crap about how my day has been going, right? You woke up this morning thinking about how your day is going to go and what you need to do. You're the protagonist of your own story. So the mistake that we make as investors, the mistake that we make as somebody who's marketing and sitting across the table from somebody and trying to get something done, is that we don't appreciate that. We understand that we're the protagonist of our story, and so everything is we buy houses, we close quick, this is what I can do for you, I. And that doesn't matter to our seller. Our seller is the protagonist of their story. Now, every story has a hero and it has a guide. If I asked you the question of how long did Yoda spend studying the Force?
Are you asking like actual?
Yeah.
Like A, probably 900 years. I don't know. I'm not that big of a Star Wars nerd.
Right. But B,
A lot,
nobody knows. For real.
and nobody cares.
Nobody knows and nobody cares. Nobody knows that Yoda's daddy trained him into the Force and he inherited this family business of teaching people how to get where they want to go.
And here's the thing is, I'm sure there are people out there in our community that do know because they've read every single...
They're like, oh my gosh!
But-
no,
yeah, and this is when we say, but guess what, ladies and gentlemen, that's not canon anymore because when Disney took it over, they wiped... Anyway.
You said I'm not nerd enough, and now
I
you're
know,
pulling
I'm
out canon.
nerding out.
So here's what I'm getting at. Nobody cares. Yoda was the guide. Luke Skywalker was the hero.
Right.
When Luke Skywalker showed up to Yoda, Yoda didn't spend 45 minutes talking about like, oh, well, I've studied the Force for 850 millennia I have, right? Which, by the way, do you guys know why Star Wars was filmed in the order that it was filmed?
Don't know, don't care.
Because directed by Yoda they were. So what I'm getting at is that there's a hero and there's a guide. Nobody... Ryan's so pissed.
What does that have to do with real estate? Anyway.
It does. So we have this bad habit of showing up and saying, look what I can do for you. This is why I'm in this. This is why I buy houses. I want to feed my family. I want to do this. I want to do that. This is why I'm here to help, blah, 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 blah. And we forget that they don't care.
Right.
Everyone has, since there's only one hero, they may make you feel really good. They may be like, wow, that's awesome. I can't believe that your story is so wonderful and blah, 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 blah. But now there's a disconnect because there's not two heroes in the story. They're the hero of their story. So you're now a hero. Okay, I've even seen people marketing as the financial hero or as the real estate hero or whatever. Wrong. They see you as the hero, but there's only one hero. They're the only hero. You're really cool, but now you don't fit into my story. Our job is to be the guide. Our job is to be the Yoda. And I know that, I've mentioned this before, and so I sit on the board for a charity called Trusted World that I really encourage you guys to go check out. It's doing phenomenal things, trustedworld.org. And I took over the CMO responsibilities while we were helping out in Hurricane Harvey because there was just so much stuff that needed to go on. And I had a little hashtag that I was reminding the whole team constantly of hashtag be the Yoda, because we need to be the guide and we need to understand that we are helping other people achieve their goals. That's our job. That is the only reason we matter. We only matter because we can help the person across the table get where they want to go. Okay? And that is the biggest takeaway that I can give anybody in any kind of marketing sense, is that you don't matter. Nothing about you matters. The limitation of your existence matters purely to how you're going to help them achieve what they need to do to get where they want to go.
Because we talk about, well, haven't talked about it lately, honestly, but like the find the pain, find the why, and I hesitate to use the words exploit because I don't
get
use
right.
it in a mean way.
It's not a pejorative to say exploit.
Right.
It's just saying we are finding that
leverage might be
Sure.
a better word. But like, find the pain to leverage that to get that. So it's almost like you want to play the role of a therapist to lead them down the route of the decision they need to make is sell you the house.
Right, exactly.
But they're making the decision. You're not making it for them.
Exactly.
But you can lead it.
Exactly.
Guide
Guide it. Be the guide.
Yeah.
So I've got this really cool slide whenever I'm teaching this where it's like a picture of a person's like side of a head and there's just puzzle pieces everywhere and they're all, different colors and there's just one puzzle piece right here. That's you. Okay? Yes, they hate their job and their boyfriend yelled at them yesterday and they're in a bad mood and, whatever, their ankle hurts and whatever. They've got all these different puzzle pieces to their mind and you can solve one of those, okay? And that's your job, is to solve one of those. You need to identify their why, right? Identify what their pain point is, and then you are going to guide them to the solution for that. So you need to adjust everything about your pitch to stop being the hero and start being the guide. I don't know if you guys have noticed, and I don't say this as much as I should, as it being my tagline, but CreativeCashFlow.com, our tagline is helping you buy more houses. Okay? It's a helping you buy more houses. It's a 5-word tagline. You want 4 to 7 words that can succinctly describe how you are going to guide somebody else to where they want to go. So now I'm exposing the thought that went behind that. Helping you buy more houses took me like 6 to 8 months to get down to that, okay? It took a long time to figure out
Where did you get that, though?
From studying the listeners and the viewers and seeing what is it, because here's the thing is that so like you guys are are the equivalent of the seller sitting on the other side of the table. I need to guide you to where you need to go. Right? So my job is to figure out what your pain point is and to solve that. If I came in here and all I ever talked about was how many houses I've bought and how many things I've done, you would say, Grant is badass, that is awesome, Grant is so cool, but you wouldn't want to work with me subconsciously. The fact that I come in as, hey, my name has been on 1400 HUDs and my job is to help you buy more houses, switches the game a little bit. And now all of a sudden I fit into your story and we can work together moving forward, right? It's not two heroes anymore. It's you're the hero and I'm your guide. So that's the example of how one way that I've used this in this realm that you can see very publicly. So you need to find those ways with your seller, okay? So that brings us into the start with why. That's Simon Sinek's, and Simon Sinek is freaking brilliant. Both of these books they just get me going. I freaking love them. They're really well written. They're very easy reads. The audiobooks on Audible are well narrated. So if you want to just kind of listen through them, that's good too. But Start With Why, have you read Start With Why?
I haven't.
Okay. So
I haven't read it.
Why the thing is, I like how you said that twice. Like I have not read it.
No, I have the book.
Oh, got it.
No, yeah. So what I'm saying is so what I like to do, and I know it's a bad habit, but I know eventually I'll find time to read again. Currently, I know it's bad. People are like, just get Audible. Well, I'm not an Audible guy.
Okay,
I
that's
like
fair.
the kinetic feeling of books. I like a highlighter. I like to take a book and destroy it.
Yeah.
People are like, well, can I borrow your book? And I'm like, no.
No, it's my book.
It's my book. If I need to buy you a book, but that's just my
Sure.
personality.
I get it.
So for my community, I like the podcasts, and
Yeah.
I do podcasts and listen to that
Yeah.
stuff. But books, I like a book. Anyway, that's just a long-winded saying of no, I have not read it, but I am prepared to read it eventually.
You like big books.
And I do not lie.
So the Start With Why is a awesome book. The principle behind Start With Why is really about your why, okay? So we are going to talk about the seller's why. That's really the creating a story brand side, right? We just talked about the seller's why of we need to fit into their story. They're the hero. We need to be very clear that they're the hero, even to the point of explicitly telling them, hey, I get it. You're the hero here. I'm just here to help you get where you want to go. Using those kinds of shortcuts, that's okay. We understand the psychology of why we're saying that, but if we can fit that into a conversation, it still works. So that's their why. But what's your why? We need to understand there's different ways of marketing. There's why, there's what, and there's how. Okay? Now, anytime we ever talk about marketing, Apple has to get brought up, right? It's almost at this point when I crack open a book that's about marketing or psychology, I literally have this question in my mind that I say, how many pages until they bring up Apple? And it's usually like 10.
Yeah.
Like we get there real quick. But Start With Why talks about this, and it's a great example for those of us who have been alive since 1998 through 2006, when we saw the rise of the iPod and the rise of Apple as a truly, that's when they became
it's an ecosystem.
Ecosystem, right? That's when they became the number one most valued company in the world. Steve Jobs started this. He got let go. Apple's.
But there's a higher level of thought there because the reason I know this because like Saturday I was at the Apple Store trying to get my money back on a brand new computer I just bought. They're like, well, it's past your 14 days. I'm like, I just spent $5,000 on this thing. It's a piece of junk. Give me my money back. Well, what's wrong with it? Yeah, the MacBook Pro. And I'm going through it. And then, of course, the thing that was broken is not broken when you're in front of them.
Of course.
But the problem is, the problem, though, is the fact that I am attached to my phone. I do have several MacBook Pros.
Right.
I can control copy here, go to my other computer and put control paste.
That's awesome.
Anyway, the whole point of that is the ecosystem, the Apple TVs, they've got me hooked, and I'm furious for it. For the past year, I would love to get out of that ecosystem, but I can't. But the reason I'm bringing that up is not just to like, but the fact that I don't even like them anymore, but I'm still working with them.
Right.
So
they got you in.
They got me in.
But that's the key is they got you in the first place.
With the houses side, though, they don't always have to work. They don't always have to like you to work with you.
Yeah.
I just want to. That's what I was getting to.
Because they've solved a pain point for you, right? That convenience that you have, you can hate a lot about them, but they've solved certain pain points for you. So let's look at Apple's rise. Okay, the iPod is really kind of what threw them out there. And Matt's already chimed in. They copied the Zoom. Yeah, that's what Apple does. They copy people and they market it better.
Or they buy it.
That's specifically what we're going to talk about. So let's talk about the Zune. Let's talk about the Creative. What was Creative's music player? I can't remember. So Creative is a company that is basically solely in audio and motherboards and stuff like that. They do audio stuff better. HP created an iPod competitor that was arguably better. But HP, when they market, what do you think of, like, when you think of an HP ad? Explain to me what an HP ad looks like.
For me personally, when I think HP, I think of a printer.
Okay,
That's
gotcha.
the only thing that comes to mind.
So
when I
think
of
about an
Hewlett-Packard.
HP, because you've seen HP like commercials, right, for their computers,
my first
right?
college computer was a HP.
But have you seen an HP commercial?
Not
really.
years.
Okay, so the way that the HP commercials work, the way that HP marketing works, is they talk about, we're going to get you a 2 gig processor for $499 and a laptop that you can get, whatever.
Budget stuff.
It's budget stuff. It's numbers. It's what they market. What, okay? So when you think of HP, I think a great example is when I said you think of HP, you said I think of printers. You think of a what? You think of what they do, because that is all they've spent their time marketing. Apple, on the other hand, when you think of Apple,
Lifestyle.
you think of lifestyle. You think of ecosystem. You think of pushing the market, pushing the status quo, right? Apple created that is what they created a why. They market their why. They're going to push the envelope. They're going to create an ecosystem that gives you a lifestyle, okay? So they have marketed their why. HP has marketed their what. HP had an arguably better iPod competitor. Microsoft the same way. Microsoft markets the what. They had the Zune. Microsoft the Zune, right?
I think they bought it, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was definitely connected.
Okay. So they market the what. So what happened is when the marketing all went out and they created this thing, people saw a music player come from a printer company and it didn't make sense in their head. And they didn't even bother looking at it because that's a printer company. Why would I look at the music player that they did? Well, guess what? Apple was called Apple Computers up until 2000. I think it was 2000, when they switched over to just Apple. They dropped the computers and made it Apple Inc. because they understood the why aspect of it. And they understood that they were marketing the why and pushing the status quo. So we all think of Apple as a why company. Therefore, any product that they release, as long as it aligns with the why, people will buy it. Okay? This is what opens your ability up to whatever you're going to do. So you need to understand in a very succinct message why you're doing this so that anything that you present to your seller aligns with that why. If I marketed to my sellers as, I'm a sub-2 genius, I can buy houses at 98% of their value by taking over on your mortgage payment. And then I go, and that's all I ever talk about.
Completely over their heads.
Well, completely over their heads, one. And then B.
It doesn't address their pain points. It doesn't address them at all because you're talking about you.
And I'm talking about a what? And I'm talking about me. So then if I go in there and I start talking about other stuff that I can do for them, and actually maybe I'll keep on that. And I start talking about other stuff. If I've talked about one strategy for 90 minutes, and then all of a sudden I throw out another strategy, then they're going to be subconsciously confused about what it is that I do and less likely to move forward with that. The more likely response is that I buy cash, I buy cash, I buy cash, I buy, I've spent forever buying cash, I can buy at a discount and make all this. And then all of a sudden you throw out sub-2 and now it's like they can't really figure out what's it. However, if you had marketed, I'm a problem solver, I do this so that I can make sure that you get where you're going. Now, all of a sudden, I always talk about the tools in your tool belt. Now, all of a sudden, whichever tool you pull out at whichever part of this negotiation aligns with what you have told them you do. You solve problems and you get them where they need to go. So any solution that you offer aligns with that why because you've marketed your why to them and they are willing to work with you. So guys, these are very minor differences in how you're going to present yourself, but these are the differences of why I contract above 88% of every first appointment house I go to versus why most people are in their 30%. Because I understand that my job is to get them where they need to go, and my job is to solve problems and put food on my table, and we'll talk about that in segment 2 and segment 3. And by that, anything that we present to them makes sense.
But these are the conversations everybody needs to be having because too often we always talk about, cash for keys, buy it for cash, this percent, 75% minus repairs. But very rarely do you talk about the seller themselves. Very rarely do people actually, let's get into the mindset. We talk about the mindset of an entrepreneur.
Right.
But let's talk about the psychology and mindset of the target.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
I think this is beneficial. I do want to point out a comment from Jermaine on YouTube. Don't interact much, but I need to let you guys, this is by far some of the best REI content on the internet. Really just want to tune in. Really love that, man. That's awesome. I love hearing
really
that.
cool.
That's a lot of love.
Yeah, thanks. That's really encouraging for us, guys. And please, again, we're talking to 4 cameras here. If you're getting something good out of this, please let us know. Please, chime in like that. Like these. Make sure that you, what's the word? Not follow. What's YouTube's follow?
Subscribe.
Subscribe. Thank you. Subscribe to the channel. Turn on the little alert so that you know when these things are going on because PROPELIO has done a phenomenal job of making sure that you guys are getting real and actionable content put in front of you. And that's what Creative Cashflow shares the vision for as well. Because again, Creative Cashflow, what's my thing? Help you guys buy more houses. To help you guys buy more houses, we have to put real information in front of you. So please reward PROPELIO for all the efforts that they're doing by putting this together. Go to PROPELIO.com and check out what they do. Sign up for a free trial. They have the tools that you need to get to that next level in your investing career. And Creative Cashflow has the education that you need to help you get to that next level in your investing career. And if you can't afford Creative Cashflow right now, please check out, and even if you can, check out both. Go to PROPELIO.com/academy. Guys, we're putting some phenomenal content in front of you for free. And when I say for free, don't think of it as not worth something. Think of it as PROPELIO is sponsoring a scholarship for you to go through a full-blown university academy to learn what you need to get to that next level. So I love what's going on here. I love seeing the feedback from you guys that things are really working for you. We're going to take a break here now that we've talked about kind of these 3 books. I didn't talk about influence much because I need you to read that book, and we talk about influence and a lot of other things. And frankly, I can talk about negotiations for hours and hours, so I just got to put a stop to it at some point in time. And so in this segment, we talked about those books. We talked about how we're going to apply psychology of our seller, that we are the guide, not the hero, that we need to understand that we are marketing our why, not our what. And you've heard me say that about like getting into certain strategies as well, like people that are getting into wholesaling. I support you getting into wholesaling, but that is a what, and I need you to have a why behind your what. That's where I'm coming from that. So that's what we talked about in this first segment. When we come back, segment 2, we are going to be talking about the cold call and how to address somebody on a phone call when you know that they're behind on payments, you know that they're about to be foreclosed on, and you've got to start a conversation from scratch on that. So stay tuned, and we'll see you right back.
PROPELIO.com. What does PROPELIO offer? Lead generating websites, access to true MLS comps, off-market lead lists, and deal alerts. Get them all today at PROPELIO.com.
You want to buy more houses? Here's Dar and his wife after only 2 weeks of being my mentor student. And here's Brady after paying attention to all our online videos and attending all the live Q&As. You want to buy more houses? 3 steps. Sign up at CreativeCashFlow.com/memberships, watch all the videos, attend the live Q&As, and then send me a photo with you and your sweet, sweet new contracts. CreativeCashFlow.com, helping you buy more houses for one low price of only
All right, guys, welcome back. So here we are in segment 2, and Ryan, you brought up a really good point during the break.
Yeah, during the break, I just wanted, before we move on to the second segment, because we're talking about marketing, we're talking about know your seller. Marketing keyword is building an avatar. In the marketing world, they use that all the time. But for real estate investing, all that simply means is grab yourself a giant whiteboard and start listing out common traits of what a typical seller of distressed property is, and what they're going through, and just list all that out. And once you have a baseline knowledge of what your target is, then you can really start honing in your marketing strategies, how you can communicate with them. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you a tip on how to create that avatar that may help you. Is doing what he's saying. Take that whiteboard, take your sheet of paper, create 3 columns. Okay. In column 1, I want you to call it situation. In column 2, I want you to call it fears, and in column 3, I want you to call it solutions. Okay. So in column 1, write everything about somebody's situation. They may be behind on medical bills. They may have car repairs that they need to get done that they haven't been able to do. They may be ill. They may be scared. Whatever that is, right? Everything you can think of your seller, and I want you to do this in this way. Similar like with what I was saying. When you read the book, as you're reading it, think about ways that you can use it. This way, as you put it on paper, as you're talking to your sellers, be paying attention to things you might be able to put on that situation block or things that are aligning with your situation block. Then in column 2, write everything that you think they're afraid of. Everything that you think they're afraid of in column 2. Column 3, so that's your avatar. Column 3 is in as few words as possible, solve as many issues as possible. Okay? So I want you in column 3 to create, how can I, in one sentence, take care of 3, 4, 5 fears and 1, 2, or 3 of these situation pieces.
And I think it's good to point out that one sentence might take a month to get to.
You heard me say helping you buy more houses, 6 to 8 months. And probably 4 different revisions of who we are.
And that's why split testing is important.
Right, exactly. Because it started off with, for what was it? For investors who want more get it, right? It wasn't clear enough. We got to, anyway.
That's a whole several.
Yeah, we could go on forever about
But the point is like just make an avatar, really spell out who your target, who that person is. That way you can get to what their why on a general, stereotypical view might be.
So let's jump into cold calling. Let's jump into this difficult situation because cold calling is something that I encourage you guys to do. It's working. Corey Thompson's doing a really good series. Is he continuing that series?
I hope so. Yeah, I think so.
He's doing a really good series on Monday nights, right?
About 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. We'll figure that out.
Shout out to Corey Thompson there on PROPELIO, showing you guys cold calling. He's really good at cold calling. He's really good at getting deals through that. Here's going to be some advice that I'm going to give you. And again, I started this off saying you're going to buy houses differently than I buy houses, and that's okay. I'm giving you a foundation to stand on. Corey Thompson buys houses entirely differently than I do. He talks to his sellers in ways I would never dream of talking to sellers.
Right.
But it works for him, right? And so that's the key. What works for me, works for me. What works for him, works for him. Take what's a foundation that we're giving you and then shift your craft from it. Once you start using our tools, see what's working better for you and shift to the directions that are going to work best for you, right? One quick example of that is I do really well at out talking people.
Really?
But I'm going to encourage you to not just constantly talk. That is something that's one of my personal strengths, is that I can fill gaps of silence with a way that helps get the contract. But I've also studied negotiations a ton, and I've also sat in front of a million sellers, and so I kind of know what their questions are going to be, right? It's a better thing to do to just say something and shut up. That powerful silence is one of your best negotiating tools.
And you brought up Corey, and what his strength is being able to be human on the phone. And what I mean by that is too often, there's a lot of fear of cold calling, like getting on the phone and just calling somebody up. But what Corey does is he basically reaches through the phone and slaps them with the obviousness that, hey, I'm a human being.
Yeah.
And I'm a little rough around the edges, have a conversation with me. So where most people would immediately hang up on a telemarketer, people are going to most likely stay on the phone with him because they're like, wait, did he just say what?
I know. So that's actually exactly where I was leading into. So thank you for pushing that out there, because this is one of those reasons where it's like I said, Corey talks to his sellers completely differently than I would. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. That's how he works. That's how I work. Here's my position on how to talk to a seller. This is because what happens is too many times people are going to cold call, and they cold call and they're like, yes, sir, my name is Grant Kemp and I'm calling you to see if you would be interested in buying your house. That's a telemarketer you're going to get hung up on every time. Corey curses and swears and throws crap out there. I mean, I think one of his best RVMs that he dropped was "F the bank, call me back," right? I have a thing, like I don't curse. I do curse in real life. I don't like that I curse. I try to work that out of my everyday vocabulary. That's not something that I like about myself.
But he comes here once a week.
But I come here once a week, right? So that's not a way that I want to make my phone calls. That's not a way that I want to behave. It's very, I mean, you might see me drop an ass. What is it?
Oh God.
So y'all might see me or hear me drop an ass on the show. But that's not the way that I want to behave. So here's the thing. My advice to you to get out of that cold calling, why, yes, my name is Mr. So-and-so. Think of it like this. Think of it like your mom gave you the phone number of some lady she knows at church who needs to sell a house. Okay? That's how you need to approach this phone call with your seller. Is that you have this there's this sort of rapport already built because it's a close friend of your mom. So you already have this established connection where you can just kind of say, hey, how you doing? Like, mom told me to give you a call. How's it going? You're going to speak to that person very respectfully, but you already kind of have this wall broken down because you have a commonality.
Right, and I would suggest, and again, this is a theoretical suggestion, not a doing, because I haven't done the cold calling game in years. But that would be, yes, have a script in the sense of what you want to get across. But instead of saying word for word, think more of the theme of what you're going for.
Your why behind it.
The theme, the why, what you're trying to get out of the phone call versus, hi, my name is Ryan. I buy houses. Would you like to sell me your house?
Right.
Have a conversation.
Exactly. So make this as conversational as friend. If you don't think of them as a friend, this isn't going to work. You've got to think of them again. And that's the best way that I can, in a practical way, give you a scenario a scenario that when you pick up the phone, you can break through that barrier for yourself. Think of this like, again, your mom gave you the phone number. She's real close with this lady at church. You're going to speak respectfully, but you got a commonality, so you can just speak freely. You're just going to say whatever you want, right? Brady, please put the wide angle of Grant dropping it like it's hot.
Well, since we're bringing that up, I think what's funny is like when you were talking about the church lady, the lag on the feed was you doing your booty dance.
That's
so
awesome.
it's like the juxtaposition of
you're
that.
right. So that's step one, is break that barrier. You are not a company calling a human. You are a human calling a human. That is step one to cold calling. Step two of a cold calling is that we understand the situation that we're in. We understand what we can do to help them. And we are just people. We're both people, okay? Now, what I don't like doing is I don't like putting people on their heels. There are some, and actually, Jermaine just actually popped in a comment about this, like, you know, it's a straight up, like, you're screwed, let you get you unscrewed. Personally, and this is a great example, personally, that's not the approach that's worked for me.
I would split test that. I would go that versus, and then you could literally have a different company, but mail both mailers to the same address, and see what response you get.
And so here's what I mean by that, because I do, and I'm gonna tell you guys here very shortly that we do get very stern. We do get very upfront about, look, this is what's going on. And I do eventually hit that "you're screwed without me" moment, but we don't start that way. Here's the fear that a lot of people have when they're making that cold call, especially to the foreclosure list, is they're going to call somebody that's $12,000 behind on their payments and say, yeah, I've never met you before, but did you know that I know that you're a loser that can't make your payments? That's a hard phone conversation to start, right? So what I do is we take the approach of, you know, like the compliment sandwich you've heard of, where it's like you give them a compliment.
I'm a pro.
You tell them a negative, and then you finish it up with a compliment.
Right.
We take that type of approach with this, in that we're going to tell them why we found them. One of my biggest mottos of the business. And again, and I always tell you this, I mean, you can stop any of my employees, anybody that's ever worked with me, you can ask them, what are we going to do? And they're going to respond, we're going to do the right thing, especially when it's not in our favor. We are always going to be honest about every freaking thing that we do, no matter how minor that is. We're going to be completely honest about it. We are not, like, for instance, I can't stand a wholesaler saying, okay, so go there, just tell them you're a contractor and you're going to give me a quote. That's the last time I'll ever work with you, because you've just shown me that you have no problem lying in business, okay? We don't lie about anything that we're doing. So when we're talking to our sellers, we're going to tell them, hey, look, here's the deal. Is I search public records for, you know, to find houses that I'm looking to purchase, and you have a house in a neighborhood that I really like working in. So you did really well in buying a house in a neighborhood that's really super desirable, but your name popped up because the bank is starting to think about that process of foreclosure. But again, the good news is you were smart enough to buy in an area that somebody like me really wants to be in. So I'd like to talk to you about purchasing this house. Have you thought about selling it to get out of this situation?
And real quick, just because we touch on it a lot, but you know, doing the right thing is really important, because you can still buy a lot of houses and make a lot of money in this business and still do the right thing. Like, you know, Daniel has a big stick in the mud or whatever it is.
Stick up his rear.
There you go. About if you can find a way to stop a foreclosure and still keep them in their house, you need to do that. Don't be that guy that steals a house.
Yeah.
But you can still be ethical and you can still do the right thing and still make a lot of money.
And that can be hard, guys. I mean, I've got a personal mentor student right now he's a great negotiator. He's going to do really well in this business. But his first deal, we went on an appointment for his first deal a couple of weeks ago, and we had the deal. It was, you know, we had the deal. But the seller was able to work something out with his bank to stay in the house. And you know, as the student, he can't help but feel super discouraged, and you know, because he's been grinding hard and working really hard, and it's right there in front of him. And in our class, I was having to tell him, I'm like, look, dude, like this is the best case scenario for them, honestly. Like, we need to make sure that they stay in their house. That's what's best for them. We're only ever doing that, right? So just understand that that's the situation that we're in. But I don't like going in and saying, hey, you showed up on the foreclosure list. Let's talk about buying your house. I like saying, I'm searching public records for neighborhoods that I really like. Your house popped up in some of the criteria that might fit for somebody who would be looking to sell. Have you thought about selling? Because I really like your neighborhood. It makes them feel good about themselves.
So just to call you out a little bit though, because you're talking about ethics, and is that a lie? Because you got them from a foreclosure list, most likely.
Right, but that's public record.
Okay.
Right?
So it's not a lie, it's just a different way of delivering it.
It's a different way of delivering the truth. I absolutely got their name from public record. And I absolutely am calling them because I want to buy a house in their neighborhood.
Right.
You know what I mean? What I don't like is some people will send marketing that says, I drove by your house, I really liked it, I'd like to buy it. That's a lie. You didn't. My marketing will say, I really like your neighborhood, and I would like to buy a house inside of it. Would you call me back? Right? Because that is truth. Right? So there are ways to deliver truth that is palatable from the seller.
I would just laugh because I'm like, cool, we got a golden nugget, we got a quotable meme coming up, and then you just butcher it.
Let me rerun.
Yeah, exactly.
There are ways to deliver the truth that is palatable, if I screw it up again, to your seller, and still delivering the truth that you have, right? There are different, it's like I always say when we're talking sub 2. I could go in and buy a house sub 2 and say, hey man, how about you sell me your house and I'm going to take over your payments. I'm going to have zero liability in this deal. So if everything goes south and we have to get a foreclosure on the record, it's not going to help, or it's not going to hurt me. It's one of the big reasons I'm in it. But if you let me take over on your payments and own the house, I'll be able to make a bunch of money. You'll get out of your foreclosure and I don't have to worry about that. Like, nobody's going to say yes to that. But we have ways to deliver the parts of the truth that matter to them, because we understand that they are the hero, that get the deal done. So again, as we finish up this segment on talking about cold calling, you talk to them like a friend, and I like saying, we search for public record. You live in a neighborhood that we really want to buy a house in. I also like stating how many houses you can buy this month. This is part of influence. This is part of the influence of psychology of persuasion. There's a principle called scarcity principle. Scarcity principle is the whole, act fast because limited supplies available, blah, 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 blah. It works. The takeaway, sometimes people call it the takeaway. So what I'll say in this conversation is, I'm looking to buy 5 more houses this month, or whatever, 8 more houses this month. I really like your neighborhood. You popped up in public record as somebody who might be in a situation where you'd be wanting to sell. Have you thought about selling? So what I'm saying is, supplies are limited. I can only buy, and your number may be 1 or 2. I need to buy 1 more house this month. And we have a list of 300 people that are in neighborhoods that we really like, but I love your neighborhood. Have you thought about selling? Because I'd like to buy in your neighborhood. That gives them a little bit of a motivation of, I like saying numbers, because my numbers are 5, 8, 10, right? I like saying 5 to 8 to them because it's an immediate grab of authority. It's an immediate way to say, I'm real enough of a player that I can afford to buy 5 houses this month. And then it's the takeaway of, do you want to be one of those 5? Or do you want to BS around long enough to where I've already filled my 5 with other people that I'm talking to? It's not putting them on their heels by saying, hey, you're a screw up and you didn't make your payments, I'd like to buy your house. But rather by saying, you were really smart for buying a house in a neighborhood that's super desirable. It looks like you might be in a situation that we can help. And if that's true, please, let's talk, right? And it's talking to them like a friend. These are the biggest principles that I can give you to break through that initial barrier with your seller to where you can start the conversation. Because anybody who's cold called a foreclosure list understands that if you go about it the wrong way, the conversation lasts about 15 seconds and they say, no, I got it taken care of, everything's fine, and they hang up. Or they say, no, I'm not behind on payments, even though you know they are. I don't know why you're calling me, and they hang up, right?
Right.
But if you can break through that barrier of embarrassment that they have, this would be column 2 on your avatar, a fear of embarrassment. If you can break through that barrier of just like, hey, general public records led me to think that you might be interested in this. I love your neighborhood. You were really smart, compliment. You were really smart for buying in it. Have you considered selling, right? That's how I get past a lot of these things. And then you can start employing a lot of the tactics that we're going to talk about in the next segment.
And real quick, Jermaine was asking if we could do a role playing. I don't think we have time today, but it looks like Brady dropped a SoundCloud. I'm assuming there's...
Yeah, I actually have several cold calls on that. I've got 3 or 4 cold calls. So thanks, Brady, for dropping that link out. And Jermaine, you will hear real live action. So
versus me going, this is Jeb.
Yeah, right?
Betsy, get the food ready.
You will hear real live action. So I'm embarrassed to admit this, but again, part of PROPELIO's drive, part of Creative Cashflow's drive is honesty and being real about the reality of real estate investing is. There's one on there where I was going to buy a house out of Denton. Dude was ready to go. Dude, I would love to say, yeah, I contracted that house. He called me back. I dropped the ball on that house. I did not do the proper follow-up on that house to contract it, so I didn't get it. But you'll hear he was ready to go, and he called me back. I dropped the ball.
And then on that, this could be a future episode, but we're talking about whiteboarding the avatar. You should probably have a whiteboard of key indicators of I need to drop everything and drive to that house immediately.
Absolutely.
Because when you're on a phone call, whether that be a buy call, a cold call, whatever, if somebody starts saying some of those, what are some examples of those indicators I'm talking about?
Any imagery that puts the house above them. Okay, I need to get out from underneath this house. I just feel like this thing is hanging over me. Anything that puts an imagery of the house or their payment being above them, that is an indicator that they are ready to sell you their house for what they owe.
And when there's 2 schools of thoughts. There's a school of thought of if I'm so available to go to it right now, I'm not doing enough business. But there's the other school of thought of if you're not going to go to it right now, somebody else is going to contract it. So you got to find what works for you. In the DFW market, I would drop everything because a Grant, a Daniel, a Tang, a Yale, they're going to contract it before you get your appointment on Friday.
Right. Yep. So in the cold calls that are on there, they're kind of handpicked in the way that, and it's actually fortunate for me because I don't look for all my. Somebody asked for, can you give us a cold call that didn't work? Right. So there's going to be one on there where it just didn't work. There's going to be one on there that I contracted over the phone, and I've made a ton of money on that deal. And then there's another one on there that goes a little bit longer. The one where I contracted over the phone, they were a little bit less sophisticated. It was a lot more about rapport. The third one that I was talking about was up in Denton that I should have contracted, but I dropped the ball on, was a lot more about the numbers because this was a financial advisor. So I was really hitting the head approach versus the heart approach of the one that I contracted. So you'll see some different examples of ways to talk to different types of sellers. So I encourage you to listen through those.
And then if you're on a podcast, that link is soundcloud.com/ggk1. So.
All right, guys. So that is the segment on cold calling. Talk to them like a friend. Don't stick them on their heels. Okay. And make sure that you're constantly giving them the compliment of, you were really wise to buy in the house or buy in the neighborhood that is desirable to me. So even though you're in a hard position, you were smart enough to buy in an area that's good so that I can help you out of this situation. 3 big takeaways from this segment. So stay tuned in. When we get back, we're going to be talking a little bit more about how do you handle the talking to your seller when you are at the appointment and actually talking to the person at their house. Okay.
You thought cold calling was scary. Wait till they're in front of you.
Exactly. So guys, stick around and we'll see you on the other side.
PROPELIO.com. What does PROPELIO offer? Lead generating websites, access to true MLS comps, off-market lead lists, and deal alerts. Get them all today at PROPELIO.com.
You want to buy more houses? Here's Dar and his wife after only 2 weeks of being my mentor student. And here's Brady after paying attention to all our online videos and attending all the live Q&As. You want to buy more houses? 3 steps. Sign up at CreativeCashFlow.com/memberships, watch all the videos, attend the live Q&As, and then send me a photo with you and your sweet, sweet new contracts. CreativeCashFlow.com, helping you buy more houses for one low price of only
Hey, welcome back to Grant Teach Me Something. Today we're talking all about seller interactions and how to talk to the seller. The first segment, we really talked about some books that you need to be reading and applying to your business. Second segment, we obviously just talked about some cold calling tips and how to interact and what works for you. But before we get to the third segment of actually talking to sellers in person, just wanted to say PROPELIO.com. Check us out. 7-day free trial. You get comps, leads, websites. We're actually about to roll out nationwide leads. We're about to roll out a Driving for Dollars app. So exciting time to be around PROPELIO.com. If you found value in this episode or other episodes, help us out. We get tons of feedback that they love our content. We're some of the best content of REI on the web. Well, that's cool and we love that, but I think our copywriting and our descriptions are bad because it doesn't get shared as much as far as the algorithms. So help us out. If you know of somebody that could use our content and use it, share it to them, email it to them. If you're on Facebook, send a message or share this out as a message. Be like, hey, Bob, check out this video. I think it'll help your game. So help us out, give us some love, likes, shares, comments, all the above.
Absolutely. So, getting back into the, and by the way, I guess I should do my own plug. CreativeCashFlow.com. Please check out CreativeCashFlow.com. Right now is a great time to get in. If you're listening to this and you were unable to see the commercial, if you use the promo code #GTMS for Grant Teach Me Something, you'll get a 20% off discount. And right now it's still only $650. It's about to go up pretty significantly, the price is, because we've got a negotiation series that I'm just waiting on my copywriters to get done with. Frankly, this legislation stuff has taken my time away, that I haven't been able to get things launched as quickly as I would want to, because I'm trying to fight for everybody's right to continue doing this business through legislation. But go check us out at CreativeCashFlow.com, because I do have a ton of information there, and I do a weekly live Q&A every Monday night for all the members of CreativeCashFlow.com. If you are in now for $650, you get a lifetime membership to both the videos and the weekly Q&A. If you wait too long, which is very soon from now, the videos alone are going to be $897 for lifetime membership, and the Q&A will be $1297 for a 1-year membership. So now's the time to join. So let's talk about the in-person meeting. When you're at the appointment, how do you go about talking to your seller? So this, some of the ways that we will be talking about this with like our sternness and like not taking a crap on, BSing and that kind of stuff, this can apply to the latter part of your phone conversation as well. What I talked about in segment 2 was how to create that conversation, how to get them past the point of saying no so that you can have an open conversation about purchasing their house. When we are talking to our sellers, we need to understand that this is their home. Okay. To us, it is an investment. To us, it is someplace we have never lived in, and we're going to go in there and we're going to tear walls down and we're going to completely just not care about any of the history that's gone into it. We're going to make it look the way that we want. To them, this is the home that they have come home to every day for however many years of their life.
Where the father, the grandfather, the cousin, whatever, who hand built the cabinets that are beautiful
to them.
Exactly.
Because sometimes the stuff that they did the work on freaking sucks. It's funny because I mentioned I mentioned that appointment I went to with my mentor student a couple weeks ago. And he told me before he went, he's like, yeah, man, the guy did all the work himself and he really fixed it up and blah, 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 blah.
You're like, clearly.
Yeah. Well, and so here's the thing. Before we went to the appointment, as a newer investor, if you hear those words, most people are like, oh, they did the work themselves. That means they put a lot of care into it. As soon as that student told me that, I said, that means it sucks.
Yeah.
That means it's awful. Everything in there is terrible. This was actually the first appointment I've ever gone to where I walked in, I was like, oh my gosh, like this guy actually did well on this. That's very surprising. But just understand that regardless, they put their heart and soul into that if they fixed that up. So what I want you to do is I want you to find something in the house to compliment. Too many investors go in there and they want to just knock everything down. They feel like the way to get the discount is to go in there and be like, oh, did you know that your house is absolute trash? That means I can only pay 60% for it.
My favorite is the giant water stain which means the roof is leaking,
Yeah.
and pointing out, they know there's a water stain. Just do the flashlight there.
Yep.
And they see it, you see it, they see you seeing it. Cool.
Yep.
They know there's a water stain. You don't have to you don't have to bring it up.
Yep, exactly. I do not tear their house to shreds when I go in there. Actually, you'll be hard pressed to hear me say anything negative about their house at all. And this is what separates us out from other investors, because most investors go in there and they're like, oh my gosh, that thing's going to take me $20,000 to fix. And their alarms are immediately going off because they know what you're doing. They know what's going on. Meanwhile, I go in there and nothing is a big deal. Everything is great. And he mentions the flashlight. Guys, if you know me or you've ever heard me, my everyday carry, my EDC has a Eagle Tac. Wait, EAGTAC.
It's a
EAGTAC.
flashlight.
I'm giving it because I'm a nerd and I searched and I found the flashlight that's good. D25 LC2. It's freaking 850 lumens of pure power.
Oh, God. Did his face just light up in the background?
And so here's what we do, is I'm walking a house and I just shine, right? And I'm talking and I'm holding rapport and blah, 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 blah. We're holding a conversation, and that giant water stain is a great example. I'm going to be building rapport the whole time. I love this quote from Daniel Moore. I've used this a ton since I heard him say it, which is, rapport has bought tons more houses than money ever has. It's a beautiful quote because it's true. Building rapport is what buys houses. I've bought many, many, many houses where they literally had an offer on the table, signed for more money than I was willing to give them. Okay? I completely screw up. The camera was now like, well, I guess there's a lot of light coming here. Thomas is like, thanks a lot. Sorry, Tommy. So, there have been... Yeah, it's okay. There have been many times that I'm buying a house that I have an offer for less than their other offer, but they accept my offer because they like me and they believe that I'm the one that can do this for them.
It's the saying, it's like, talk about anything and everything except for the house. That's something
Okay.
I've always heard.
Okay, yeah, I can dig it. So what we're going to do is...
That means he doesn't like that.
No, it means I can see it working, and it means that people buy different houses, or buy houses differently, right? So I'm going to be building rapport and talking, and I'm just going to find that thing that sucks. And even if the lights work, people will because I pull my flashlight out no matter what. And this is another thing too, that one of the reasons why I like having the flashlight is oftentimes you'll go to these houses and all the lights are off. Well, guess what? They're behind on their payments. They can't afford the electricity bills. They're really working to keep their electricity down. So they may have a negative heart moment when you start flipping lights on. They've trained themselves that light on means bad.
That's huge, guys. Like, I've never even thought of that or heard of that, but that's huge. Like, not because, again, it's only natural we walk in a room to flip a switch. Mm-hmm. But I've never heard anybody describe that there might be an emotional negative connotation to flipping the switch because of the electric bill.
Right.
Because again, if you're up to payments, if you're a normal, I don't want to say normal, average human being,
right.
Flushing the toilet is not a big deal because there's more water coming to them.
Right.
But, flipping on a switch, not a big deal because electricity is whatever, it's a cost of life. Mm-hmm.
But
that's a huge
But they've
nugget.
spent months training themselves and their family.
I honestly, I'm surprised I've never heard that or thought of that in the past whatever years.
Yeah.
But I think that's huge because, again, it's their house. Let them show you what is acceptable versus you just blip, blip, blip.
Right.
That's awesome, man.
So that's one of the big reasons why I started carrying the flashlight. It's A, you never know when the electricity is going to be off on a house. And B, I don't want that seller to have that negative feeling with me flipping switches. But the other thing is when I'm searching a house, I'm going to use a flashlight, and sometimes the sellers will be like, "Oh yeah, no, you can turn the light on." Oh, okay, that's cool. And I still use a flashlight. And they might have a little whatever. But the reason why I use this light is this light puts off more than a 60 watt light bulb, so they can very clearly see what I am looking at. I'm going to continue my rapport building with them. We're going to be chatting. I always try to keep shoulder to shoulder with them because this is part of the whole building process of, at the end of and I'm going to give you this negotiation tip here in a second, but this is part of the setup of what I'm doing mentally the whole moment. I try to, when I'm standing next to them, I try to stand shoulder to shoulder because One of the tools that I'm going to give you if you're fighting over a price at the end of the negotiation is that I'm going to tell them, actually the house I live in, I had to use this tactic. The negotiation was dead. We were done. And then I used this phrase. It opened up the negotiation again, and I got the price I wanted. This is what you say. You say, look, here's the thing. We're not negotiating against each other. What's happening right now is you and I are sitting on the same side of the table, and we have a problem on the other side of that table. That problem is you want to sell your house and I want to buy the house. So we're actually working together to solve this problem. It's not you against me. It's you and me trying to fix this issue, right? That breaks through that barrier and reopens the negotiations so well. And so if you've spent the entire day trying to subconsciously ensure that you are standing next to them and kind of talking shoulder to shoulder, then subconsciously when you offer that to them, they already have a vision in their mind of you being side by side, and it allows you to reopen that, right? So we're going to stand side by side, and I'm going to keep my flashlight, and I'm going to keep rapport, and if I find that water thing, just like he said, I'm just going to keep the light on it just long enough for him to look over and see that I see that water thing, and then I'm going to move on and keep going without ever even talking about it, okay? But now, as I've done that through the tour of the house, he knows that I know the things that are wrong with it. I don't have to point it all out. I don't have to say, did you know how crappy your house is on all these things? That is huge because we're complimenting them. We're telling them they're in a good neighborhood. They've made wise decisions. We're ready to buy the house, and they're positive with us. They need one of the psychological principles of just, negotiations in general. If you refer somebody positively, the positive thing that you use to refer that other person, let me put some names to this because it's getting confusing. So I'm talking to Ryan, and I need to refer Tang to him for whatever reason. No, I'm going to take that back. I'm you, and I need to refer Grant to him for whatever reason. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, hey, look, this house, you owe too much on it for me to make a move at it, but I'm going to get you with Grant Kemp because he's a genius at making things work, and he can make things work that nobody else can, and he's really ethical and blah, 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 blah. Everything that you say about me, subconsciously, psychologically proven, that person will apply to you, okay? Behind the scene. So it's kind of in that same way of, as long as we keep everything positive and we keep our interaction happy, they enjoy working with us. If I'm constantly talking about all the positive and good things, they're like, you know what? This is a positive dude. And he always is looking for ways to help and do the right and do a good thing, rather than if I'm always pointing out the negatives, then they're constantly getting negatives from me, and their heart associates me with negativity rather than their heart associating me with positivity. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So we're going to do all these things to make sure that we're on the same side of the table, that we're talking about positive things, and all with that end goal of understanding that we know why we're here. We understand that we're here to buy a house. Oh, I forgot. There's one more thing about the flashlight. When you get to that obviously bad thing that they are cringing about showing you because there is a massive crack with water coming up through it in the garage, and they know that it's really bad, whatever that thing is, we are going to say, that's no big deal. We deal with this stuff all the time. And we're going to say, I get that stuff done for cheap. Okay? Key phrase right here. That's no big deal. I get that stuff done for cheap. Because, and I want you to digitally raise your hand if you've ever had this happen. How many of you have gotten to the end of the negotiation, you included, how many of you have ever gotten to the end of the negotiation and you say, look, it's going to take me about $25,000 to fix this house up to the standards that it's got to be for these buyers, and I'll give you a tip on that here in a second. Blah, 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 blah. So I have to buy it like this. And the reaction is, it's not going to cost $25,000 to get this done. My cousin can do this for blankety blank. Have you ever gotten that?
Yeah, and then the response is, well, I don't have your cousin. Why hasn't he done that since? Or and it's like, if your cousin can do that, why hasn't he already done that? Mm-hmm. And then also, you've probably been trying to hire your cousin for a year to do that.
Right.
I don't know your cousin. So there's a lot of feedback there. But yeah, that happens all the time.
So I have never gotten that. I have stopped getting that response from the moment I started using that phrase of, don't worry about that. no big deal. I get that stuff done for cheap. Because now you're putting into their mind, A, that you do enough volume, that you get good prices from your guys, and B, you've told them that your prices are cheap, therefore they don't feel like subconsciously that you are inflating all of your numbers. No one, since I've started using that phrase, has hit me with, that's not what this would cost. I stopped getting that, okay? Little tiny thing, big, huge result.
Right.
So we compliment things, we only point it out without calling it out, and then if it is something big, don't worry about that, we get it done for cheap.
So real quick, because I know we need to wrap up soon, but Jermaine, he was saying his biggest problem is the small talk. Like, he says he sucks at it.
Okay.
What are some tips that we could apply to him today?
There's a book called The Art of Banter, The Art of Witty Banter, okay? If you suck at talking, go check that out because it kind of gives you a quantitative view of how a conversation works and ways for you to find things to talk about. So I would recommend you The Art of Witty Banter if you feel like small talk is difficult for you.
Right.
So I do want to wrap up here. I've given you guys a ton of great ways to make sure that you are persuading, using a Robert Cialdini word, them everything that you're doing up to the point of negotiation. Because here's the question. When does the negotiation start for your seller?
When they read your mail, whatever marketing piece they see first.
Well, no, I would argue that the negotiation for the seller
for the seller?
Yeah, for the seller
is when the contract comes out.
When you sit down at the table and you rifle through your papers, that's when their brain says, okay, time to start negotiating. Your brain starts negotiating at, hey there, my name's Grant, right? That's when you So everything that I've just told you is negotiation that you're persuading them into what you need them to know about it by the time their negotiation starts, right? Mm-hmm. Now, this is the thing. You have to stand your ground. What you need to do when they start being delusional about things, this is going to be applicable on the phone and in person. They're going to be delusional about, well, everything's going to be solved and everything's going to be this and everything blah, 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 blah. Tomorrow. I hit them with, look, I would love for that to happen, but here's the thing. The reality of it is blankety blank. We need to make, just like when I'm talking about we're on one side of the table and the problem's over there, I'm not the problem. It's not that I will not give you this. It's that, so like for instance, here's one way to use reality as the bad guy. He says, I want $85,000. I say, I'm sorry, that's just not realistic, right? It's not I'm unwilling to give this to you. It's that the reality is the problem. Let's work to fix that problem, right? That's not a realistic question.
You're an idiot. You're not getting that much.
Exactly. It's not you're an idiot. It's not I won't do it. It's that's not realistic. But let's talk about some ways that we can get you there, right? So make realism the bad guy. Make the bank the bad guy. Make everybody but you the bad guy subconsciously so that you can still, as a last ditch, pull that we're on the same side of the table thing, and it will still make sense to them, right? And the last thing that I want to leave you with is a cornerstone of negotiating that I need you to bring up early on, either on the phone or early on in the appointment, which is you're here to make money. I know that I've talked about this at the PROPELIO events, which, by the way, do we have one scheduled?
May 14th.
May 14th. Come to those things. They're awesome. I've talked about this before at the PROPELIO events, which is you're here to make money. I hate that I can ask 95% of the investors out there.
I'm just here to help you.
Why are you doing this?
I'm here to help
I'm
people.
here to help. I love helping people. That's why I'm doing real invest. I like helping. Bull! You're here because there's zeros on the end of this check. If you liked helping people, you'd be working for the Red Cross. You want money. So stop freaking lying to them about it and tell them you want money. And guess what? They're going to say, oh yeah, no, absolutely, you should make money. You get a positive response from it. B, it knocks down a lot of barriers, and so now all of a sudden you're one of the only people that's actually being honest with them. And C, if you find a way early on in the conversation, and I'll tell you where you can find this, when it does get to the negotiating table, and they do tell you what they want and you can't do that, now you get to say this beautiful phrase that stops all of the negotiation, which is, he wants 85, I want to offer 65. He says, but I need 85.
Can I give you a response?
Please. I need 85, Ryan.
That just doesn't make business sense to me.
Okay. Boom, it's done. This guy stops fighting. That just doesn't make business sense to me. Is the most beautiful and wonderful, that just doesn't make business sense. 6 words, ends the negotiation. If you said, I'm here to help, Ryan's the investor. Why are you doing this?
To make money.
Well, no, say you're here to help. Say that you're the I'm here to help guy.
I'm here to help you.
Okay.
I'm gonna hit. There's a bad situation. Let's find a way to get you out of the situation. I'm gonna here to help you.
That's so great. So I need $85,000 to sell, and you can only offer 65.
Well, I want to help you, but I can only do 65.
Well, if you wanted to help me, you would give me $85,000. I need this money. I need it to pay for my car. I need it to pay for this. If you wanted to help me, give me my 85.
And you know, honestly, this is where the deer in the headlights come in. If anybody in the comments has a response, I would love to see it.
There's not one. That's the key. There's not one. You've screwed yourself. If you tell them you're here to help, and then you get to this situation where they need 85 and you can only give them 65.
But I thought you were here to help me.
I thought you were here to help me. Now you have proven yourself a liar. And even if it's on a subconscious level, they don't want to work with you anymore because you don't align. Remember when let's rewind all the way back to the first segment. Remember when we started talking about the marketing and we started talking about your why and marketing your why instead of your what? If your why, remember the whole point of why Apple took off is that they marketed their why. They marketed that they were here to push the status quo. They were here to be innovative. So anything they offered, as long as it aligned with their why, people were comfortable with doing it and they purchased their product, okay? People have to subconsciously have a straight line view of you. If anything that you do makes that line break, you've lost the negotiation. So in this case, if they have told you, or if you have told them, I'm here to help, and then you give them reason to believe that you're no longer here to help, you've broken that straight line communication, and subconsciously they're uncomfortable working with you, and the likelihood you get that contract has gone through the floor. However, if you have told them very frankly from the beginning, I'm here because it makes money, and then they say, I need 85, and you say, I'm sorry, that just doesn't make business sense to me, well, they've got no retort this time. You didn't have a retort last time because it didn't align. Now they don't have any retort. And guess what they actually usually say? More times than not, they say, no, I get it. You need to make your money. So what can we do? I'm honestly.
What can we do?
Right, exactly. Honestly, that's usually the response. Is no, I get it. You need to make your money. I get it. But they're totally cool with it because we're in a straight line.
Right.
Okay. So where can you bring this in? It's at the beginning, early on, whenever they tell you some kind of pain point, because they will. Something that sucks in their life.
But that should definitely be something that needs to be in person versus on the phone.
No,
though,
I
right?
say it on the phone.
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. I find because we need that opportunity.
Right.
We need them to open that door for us. And that open door is something about their life that sucks. Okay? So anytime they give you something about their life that sucks, the first time they do that, some major thing, you're going to say, look, here's the thing. I'm in this business because it makes money. I'm in this because it puts food on my family's table. But I really like the fact that I'm able to help people out of situations like this. I really like the fact that even though I'm doing this to put food on my family's table, I'm going to be able to take this burden off of your back. It sucks that you're having to deal with that. But it's awesome that I'm going to help you get out of that. Huh? You're the guide. It's awesome that I'm going to be able to help you get out of that situation. And this is what we're talking about doing. That's all you need to do. Now you've told them you're here to make money. Now at the end, you can say, I'm sorry, that doesn't make business sense. And you're in a straight line. And everything works for you guys. So guys, this has been, again, a hard-hitting episode with a lot of great tips for you on buying houses. Do you have any questions? Do you have any questions or anything
I think
you
we
want
need
to
to wrap up just because, we need to get going.
In respect to time.
Respect the time and everybody. But again, thank you so much for watching, listening. If you found value in this, share it with somebody that you think might find value, whether that be through an email, through a DM on Facebook or whatever. Help us grow by sharing this. Hopefully you get value out of this, and visit CreativeCashFlow.com, visit PROPELIO.com. That's it for me. What about for you?
I just want to thank you guys for tuning in. I also want to take a quick moment and thank you guys who have supported this legislation that's going in. If anybody's following me on Facebook, you've seen that I've been literally sitting in the legislators' offices, talking to senators, talking to staffers, making things work for us to where, like, it's so crazy to me. Like, there's literally going to be language in Texas law that I have told people to put there, and it is in protection of our needs, and it is through the efforts of the Texas 100. So please, guys, check out www.texas100.org, because to do this, in short, there's legislation that is truly threatening our industry right now. The bill that is passed as it stands will keep thousands and thousands of deals from happening every year if it passes as it's worded right now. And to fix that, we need a lobby effort. Our lobby effort is Texas100.org. We need 100 people to contribute $1,000 a year for the next 3 years so that we can pay for the lobbyists. 100% of the money goes to the lobbyists. But myself, Eddie Speed, Mitch Steven, Mike Powell, David Fenolio, Paul O'Dwyer have taken a lot of time out of our days for free, and a lot of these guys in an industry that in a bill that doesn't even affect them at all. You've got a lot of hard-hitting big dogs in this industry fighting for your rights, and we're not taking any profits from that. None of that money is going to anything but the lobbyists. But to get stuff done in the government, we need lobbyists there to fight it. And then those of us that are able to take that time and do have the intimate knowledge of it and can sit in the senator's office will do that. But we need you to partner with us. So if you're not already partnered with us, please go to Texas100.org. Check that out. Join. Whatever you can do to join is amazing. And those of you who have joined, thank you so much for your support. We really appreciate it. But thank you for tuning in today.
See you next Wednesday.
We'll see you next Wednesday.
Propelio TV is sponsored by Noble Mortgage and Investments, CreativeCashFlow.com, and Life and Air.
Hey everybody, I'm Ryan with Propelio. If you like what you saw, please subscribe. Turn on those notifications and stick around for more. We have tons of content like this all over our channel. So if you want to learn more about real estate investing, stick around, watch Propelio TV, and we'll see you later.